Donald Trump has a secret weapon in his fight to secure the Republican presidential nomination next year, despite all of his legal troubles. Polling strongly suggests he has changed the GOP primary electorate in a way that will make him harder to defeat. Numerous public and private polls showed that since Trump became the GOP's frontrunner in 2016, the share of GOP primary voters who are generally most skeptical of him has decreased, and the share of voters who are generally most sympathetic to him has increased. These adjustments imply that Trump has set in motion what might turn out to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Compared to when he first won the nomination in 2016, he has incentivized more participation in the Republican primaries from the blue-collar voters most likely to support him, and less from the white-collar voters most likely to serve as the cornerstone of any coalition against him. There is no doubt, according to veteran GOP pollster Whit Ayers, he has drove people out of the Republican Party who were more likely to support candidates George W. Bush, John McCain, and Mitt Romney, and he has drawn people into the Republican Party who are more likely to support him and people like him. This shift in the Republican electorate is crucial because there is a huge disparity in the GOP's attitudes toward Trump based on educational attainment, or what political analysts have referred to as the wine track and beer track voter divides. For example, in the most recent SRSS-conducted CNN national poll, nearly 3/5 of Republicans without a four-year college degree said nominating Trump again would give the party its best chance of winning in 2024. In sharp contrast, 2/3 of Republicans with a college degree said the party would have a better chance if it chose someone else. Republicans are faced with a paradox. While college-educated adults' influence is waning in the GOP primary, they are becoming a bigger barrier to the party's success in general elections. The majority of the GOP's disappointing election outcomes in 2018, 2020, and 2022 can be attributed to the rejection of Trump and candidates with a Trump-like appeal in well-educated suburbs across the nation. Underscoring the party's ongoing decline in such places, particularly in light of the increasingly heated debate over abortion rights, the Democratic landslide in last week's state Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, a state the GOP likely needs to win back to retake the White House next year. The difficulty for the party in regaining those suburban voters is made worse by the shifting nature of the GOP coalition. A shift in the primary electorate toward a more working-class demographic benefits candidates like Trump, who emphasize the divisive culture war messages that are turning off those voters in the general election. The GOP firm Public Opinion Strategies polling is most likely the best long-term dataset for capturing the shifting characteristics of the Republican electoral coalition. It compiles the results of all the polls it conducts for media clients like The Wall Street Journal, NBC, and CNBC each year, to create a large sample representation of the supporters of the two parties. According to a thorough breakdown the company gave me, this annual merged data reveals some significant changes among GOP identifying voters over the past 10 years. According to Poll's data, the party is becoming a little older. In 2012, 43% of all Republicans were 55 years of age or older. In the most recent annual compilation from 2022, that number increased to 50%. The party shifted slightly to the right during that time, with the percentage of GOP voters who identify as very conservative rising from 34% in 2012 to 38% in 2022. As in 2012, men made up a slight majority of all GOP supporters in 2022. This is in stark contrast to the electorate as a whole, where women make up the majority. Voters of color made up about 1 in 8 party members, which is essentially unchanged from 10 years ago. According to GOP pollster Bill McInturff, one of the firm's partners, one change in the GOP electorate was more significant than any other: the growth of non-college whites as a percentage of self-identified Republicans. The company discovered that in 2012, whites without college degrees made up 48% of all Republicans, just slightly more than whites with college degrees, who made up 40%. The difference between the two groups had grown by 2016, when Trump was first nominated, with non-college whites accounting for 56% of all Republicans and college-educated whites, dropping to 33%. In the results for 2022, whites without a college degree increased to 62% of all GOP supporters, while whites with a college degree fell to 25%. Polls found that the percentage of GOP supporters without a college degree increased from 56% in 2012 to 70% in 2022, when accounting for the relatively small number of racial minorities among GOP supporters. The Census Bureau data and other data sources, such as the projections by the Democratic targeting firm Catalyst, show that over that same period, whites without a college degree have generally seen their share of the electorate decline by about 2 percentage points every 4 years, which makes this shift even more startling. As American society becomes more racially and educationally diverse, non-college whites have therefore been growing in number within the GOP, while they have decreased overall. Not all data sources display changes as pronounced as Poll's. The Public Religion Research Institute's large sample polls found that between 2016 and 2022, the educational profile of GOP supporters remained essentially unchanged. Similarly, veteran GOP pollster Chris Wilson stated in an email that while he thinks the GOP electorate has shifted more toward voters without a college degree over the past 10 years, the majority of that change had already happened by 2016, and there has been little further change since. According to one interpretation of the data, Trump's primary season impact was already factored into the 2016 election, he said. However, other evidence suggests that change will continue. In addition to the findings of public opinion strategies, the Pew Research Institute discovered that over the 2010s, the proportion of whites with college degrees who voted for the GOP decreased, widening the gap with whites without degrees. This percentage remained constant at just under 3/5 of the party. In its most recent data, Pew discovered that voters of all races without a college degree now make up fully 68% of Republicans, a finding that is nearly identical to Powell's. College-educated voters will probably make up a slightly larger portion of actual voters in the primaries held the following year, regardless of their precise proportion in the overall GOP supporter base. This is due to the fact that eligible voters who have a college degree consistently turn out in greater numbers than those who do not. Gary Langer of ABC conducted cumulative analyses of all the exit polls taken in the Republican presidential primaries of 2008, 2012, and 2016, and discovered that each time, voters with and without college degrees made up nearly exactly half of the total GOP primary electorate. However, later adjustments to the exit polling methodology indicate that those figures probably overstated the proportion of GOP voters who attended college. Recent GOP and media polls have revealed that Republicans without a degree are more prevalent. According to the most recent CNN polls, for example, voters who hold a college degree will make up about 1/3 of the likely GOP voters in 2024, while voters without a degree will make up the other 2/3. The most recent Monmouth University poll revealed an even bigger disparity, predicting that 72% of GOP primary voters will be uncollege educated in 2019. Ayers, McInturf, and CNN contributor Kristen Soltis Anderson, 3 Republican pollsters I spoke with, all predicted that college-educated voters will make up about 40% of the GOP electorate in the upcoming election. With a clear majority of about 60%, the non-college voters remain as Trump's mainstay of support. State-level surveys show the GOP electorate's shift toward non-degree holders. In New Hampshire, for example, a January 2016 poll conducted by the University of New Hampshire just before the state's primary revealed that adults with a 4-year college degree or higher made up a majority of 54% of likely voters. In an poll from January 2023, the percentage of likely GOP primary voters with college degrees had dropped by half to just 27%, while the percentage of those without degrees had risen to 73%. The percentage of likely GOP primary voters in New York who have a college degree has also decreased by half, from about 50% in 2016 to just 25% now, according to polling by Siena College. The Public Policy Institute of California's polling during the same time period reveals a more subdued shift in the same direction there. Building a coalition that can defeat the outgoing president in the primaries is significantly more difficult as a result of these changes. Both voters with college degrees and those without have favored Trump in recent weeks, especially as the party came together to support him in the wake of Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's indictment of him. But there's no denying that Republicans with college degrees are much more tolerant of Trump than those without one. According to Langer's cumulative analysis of the 2016 exit polls, only about 1/3 of Republicans with college degrees voted for Trump in the primaries. And while only 33% of Republicans with degrees agreed with the latest CNN poll's finding that the party should nominate Trump in 2024, 63% of Republicans without college degrees did, indicating that his support among them has not increased from its meager level in 2016. Nearly half of all Republicans who have negative opinions of Trump, according to Anderson's firm Echelon Insight's recent polling, are college graduates. She asserts that both Republicans who identify as conservatives and those who do not are correct in this. She claims that the educated right-wingers are the ones who are least supportive of Donald Trump. However, those highly educated Republicans have less influence over the nomination process than they did in 2016, after 8 years of Trump's seismic impact on the party. It's unlikely that anyone can unseat Trump without significantly reducing his lead among the blue-collar voters who gave him nearly half of their total votes in 2016, and are again supporting him at least at that level in most 2024 polls, given that non-college Republicans are now a growing majority of the primary electorate. College-educated Republicans are where it has to start if you want to have an anti-Trump coalition in the primary, according to longtime GOP consultant David Kochel, one of many party strategists. But since it's unlikely that just those voters will be enough to defeat Trump, his opponents will also need to weaken his hold on non-college Republicans. However, doing so might necessitate adopting stances on cultural issues that make it more challenging to bring the college Republicans together. Kochel claims that these two groups have very different values, they see things differently, and they live in very different media universes. Recent Ron DeSantis polling results among Republicans with college educations may reflect this difficulty. The Florida governor, who earlier this year frequently outperformed Trump among them, has steadily lost ground as he has leaned even more hard into his credentials as a culture warrior, signing legislation allowing permit-less carry of concealed weapons, and supporting a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. DeSantis also made a mistake on Ukraine by initially echoing Trump's skepticism of ongoing U.S. support, and then somewhat distancing himself from it. If President Joe Biden doesn't face a tight Democratic race and more white-collar independents choose to run in Republican primaries as a result, Wilson says it's possible that college graduates will make up a slightly larger percentage of the GOP electorate in 2024 than they did in 2016. However, the majority of other Republicans I spoke with felt that it would be difficult for the other candidates to defeat Trump in an electorate that was even more skewed than it was in 2016 in favor of Trump's supporters. Kochel claims that he has created favorable circumstances for himself. However, Kochel does not think that dynamic ensures a victory for Trump. The former president may be more susceptible to a sustained effort to define him negatively from the right on issues like his support for measures to lock down the country in the very first days of the COVID-19 pandemic, according to him. Will Republicans of all camps, he claims, generally rally around Trump when he is criticized by Democrats or the news media? It won't be simple to defeat Trump with those justifications, because the non-college Republicans who have the strongest emotional attachment to the former president as a warrior who fights for them, are also the GOP voters who are theoretically most receptive to that case. However, the majority of GOP strategists concur that Trump's challengers in 2024 must find a way to lessen his decisive lead among Republicans in blue-collar jobs. It will be very challenging to unseat him if he maintains that level of support among those primary voters who are not in college, according to Ayers. The former president in 2024 may have even more reason to declare, as he so famously did in 2016, that I love the poorly educated, unless one of Trump's rivals can upset these dynamics.